In near future, ocean levels rise due to fast environmental change. Furthermore, humankind chooses to move to space. They assemble covers among Earth and Moon's orbital plane, also go through many years moving most residents there. After humankind has settled down, Shelter 8, 12, and 13 declare themselves the Adrian Republic, and they begin attacking other shelters, starting off many years of battle with the associated power. Presently the people left on Earth have to live building munitions and parts of the robots used in this war. The best soldier in army is the legendary Captain Jung-E, who is currently in an abandoned town and waking up from an explosion. There are robots coming after her, and she immediately defends herself with precise shots and creative use of the hook that comes with her weapon. Humanoid robots are easy for her to defeat, but soon a new sturdier modicon for legs appears, which will be harder to fight alone. Jung-E chooses strategic hiding spots and surprises the robot with a shot that lights it on fire. But the robot has its own set of extinguishers and is soon ready to go again. Using the hook, Jung-E piles a bunch of metal beams together and drops them on top of the robot when it comes closer, effectively trapping it. Then she hides behind a car to do her shot, only to get distracted by a little doll hanging car's mirror. This distraction allows the robot to shoot her first, and Jung-E is pushed back, but when she looks at her broken hand, she discovers she's on Android and didn't know about it. Suddenly an alarm rings and the town disappears. It turns out this isn't the real Jung-E, she actually died in combat some years ago. Now a group of scientists is using a copy of her brain and trying to create a perfect soldier android that could be multiplied and sent to war. There hasn't been much progress because during the simulations, which recreate Jung-E's last battle, she always loses in the same spot and they don't know why. The head of the team is Jung-E's own daughter Seo-Hyun, who has to watch the face of her mother die over and over. There's also Sang-hoon, the director of the project, who decides to make a special presentation for the higher-ups of the army to promote their android, which they're calling Jung-E. Sang-hoon's presentation includes fancy dining and a summary of the history behind the war, but the soldiers are bored by this and want him to fast forward through what they already know. The video explains how they're mapping Jung-E's neural cortex, converting it to data to develop the most advanced combat command L ever. Then Seo-Hyun demonstrates how the simulations have been recording behavioral patterns. However, the soldiers notice the android hasn't escaped the simulation yet, and the entire point is that if Jung-E hadn't lost that battle, they would have already won the war. Until the team doesn't solve Jung-E's final mistake, the government won't be interested in funding this project. After the presentation is over, Seo-Hyun and Sang-hoon have a meeting in private. Sang-hoon reminds Seo-Hyun that she has his full support and that the chairman expects great things from her. He started working for the chairman 10 years ago, but he knows Seo-Hyun was taken in when she was just a little girl that lost her mother. So it matters to Sang-hoon to have a good working relationship with her. Afterwards, Seo-Hyun works with newbie Jo-kyung to see what's the problem with their latest model. The remaining scraps of Jung-E are awoken, and since the brain still thinks as human, the fake Jung-E freaks out at seeing herself as a robot and begins agonizing in pain. Seo-Hyun immediately turns off the point sensors, allowing Jung-E to go for fury instead, and she demands to know what they did to her. It seems this copy of the brain is too damaged to keep working on it, so Seo-Hyun orders its destruction. Now they're done for the day. Jae-kyun takes the chance to express how excited he is to work here because he's always been a big fan of Jung-E, calling her a hero. Seo-Hyun explains that Jung-E that she never wanted to be a hero. She only joined the war as a mercenary to pay for Seo-Hyun's treatments because when she was a child they found a tumor in her lungs. She cried every time her mother went to battle, and the day of her surgery was also the day her mother died. Sometimes Seo-Hyun wonders if her mother regrets making such a sacrifice and resents her for it, causing Jae-kyung to point out she could just ask the android, since she shares the real Jung-E's memories. Seo-Hyun says she'll consider it, but it seems she's scared to try. Then Seo-Hyun leaves for the day and takes the local train, where she sees a mother interacting with her child. This makes her remember the last day she saw her own mother. Seo-Hyun had been getting ready for surgery, and Jung-E stopped by to wish her good luck before leaving for battle. Jung-E had promised she would come back and hug Seo-Hyun tightly, giving her a lucky cheek rub. When the train makes it to its destination, Seo Hyun goes to take her annual ethics test that everyone must take to prove they aren't an android, consisting of questions related to feelings and morals. Afterward, she goes to see her doctor, who sadly confirms the tumor is back in her lungs, and she only has 3 months left. This means the surgery she has as a child and her mother's sacrifice had been in vain. The doctor points out the best course of action would be to copy her brain right away and transfer it over to a prosthetic body, since laws protect people that do this nowadays. However, they only protect people that do this with type A, which is incredibly expensive. There is also type B, which is cheaper but loses rights like marriage, freedom of movement, and adoption, and the government requires compliance that she will allow them to touch her brain data. Or she could choose type C, which doesn't treat people as humans at all. It surrenders ownership of the brain data, allowing certified companies to own it. This means they'll make thousands of clones and the person using this option will no longer be an individual, but at least the prosthetic is free. Type C is what Jung-E had chosen to get the surgery money for her daughter. Seo Hyun promises she'll think about it and leaves the doctor to recharge, because he's an android as well. As Seo Hyun leaves the building, she remembers the day the company's higher-ups come to her house and asked her grandmother to sign the agreement that would allow them to use Jung-E's brain on androids. In return, they'd pay for Seo Hyun's upbringing. They also gifted Seo Hyun an action figure of Jung-E, promising that her mother would be a hero forever, but to this day Seo Hyun is still unsure that was the best decision. Seo Hyun ends her day by visiting her mother's comatose body, which is kept in a special chamber so the brain won't rot. The next day, Seo Hyun's team makes a new copy of the brain and gets ready to test it on a new simulation. But first, Sang-hoon wants to do something different to try to get a new result, and he orders the team to shoot the android in the leg before they start. When Jung-E wakes up in the simulation, she suffers great pain from the leg wound, and it hurts Seo Hyun to watch how her mother suffers. Jung-E tries to fight through the pain, but she's easily overpowered, and her will to fight starts to go down. However, when the enemy is about to kill her, a new area in her brain lights up, and Jung-E stands up to keep fighting, managing to defeat the robot with just her fists before she gets shot by a different enemy. It's a pity that they've lost this new brain already, but Sang-hoon is excited by this development, and is ready to show it off to the higher-ups. The next day, the whole team leaves the labs and travels to the company headquarters, but the chairman isn't available. Instead, they're met by the new head of the product development department, who keeps giggling at Sang-hoon and not taking him seriously. Sang-hoon is confused by the need for a product development department because they never had one before, since the company only produces weapons, and he worries about the possibility that weapons development will be downsized, but his concerns aren't heard and the team is sent away without answers. On the trip back to the labs, Sang-hoon keeps insulting the new employee and swears he'll keep the chairman's dream alive. Some days later, the team is looking at the new parts they could use for their next android test when they're informed the chairman has come to see them. On the way to the meeting, Sang-hoon asks if Seo Hyun has been taking her ethics test because it's important for them to be sure she's doing fine mentally while dealing with her own mother as an experiment. As soon as the pair enters the office, Sang-hoon freezes, revealing he's actually an android that the chairman built by replicating his own brain, but Sang-hoon has no idea. The chairman has come to bring very important news. The Allied Force and the Adrian Republic are signing a treaty, meaning the war is over and weapons won't be needed anymore. He doesn't consider the research they did on Jung-E pointless though, because it's taught them a lot about developing good AIs, and they can use it now to make housekeeping and service worker androids.